We're now joined by ABC's TJ Winnick, speaking to us directly from Ground Zero in New York. Mr. Winnick, this is the biggest victory the US has scored in the war it's waged on Al-Qaeda. Beyond the initial scenes of jubilation, what's the feeling among Americans, especially around Ground Zero, on this momentous achievement, as former President Bush called it?
Well, Robert, certainly folks down here at Ground Zero know this is an important symbolic moment, but it's also coupled with a realism that the fight against terrorism does not end with Osama bin Laden's demise. They realize that there are plenty of his disciples who still want to take the fight to the United States. And really, the biggest threat right now, considered by Homeland Security and the FBI, are homegrown radicals, folks within our borders right now.
And in his address to the nation, President Obama signaled that this achievement is about a nation coming out of decline and that this may be the platform of his re-election campaign. Is this psychological moment going to hold for President Obama?
We can tell you that there hasn't been an approval ratings poll since Sunday night, so that still remains to be seen, but certainly it is huge. After all, foreign policy is considered a weak point for this president. But one lesson I think that maybe we should look at here is 1991, when the first President Bush was riding a huge wave of popularity after the overwhelming success of the first Gulf War. And then a short time later, he was, of course, defeated by Bill Clinton, who was able to take advantage of how poorly the U.S. economy was doing at that time. So I still believe personally that his fortunes are tied to the fortunes of the U.S. economy.
And a final question. Of course, the war on terror doesn't just imply America fighting Islamic extremism. You said that there's a realization that there are plenty of homegrown enemies to deal with and Al-Qaeda residue around the world. But do you think many people will now think, well, that's the war on terror sorted, now we can leave Afghanistan and everything's fine again?
Well, as I mentioned, I think people's perception is that the war on terror does not end with Osama bin Laden, but I think, more and more in recent months, politicians have been calling for the U.S. to pull out of Afghanistan, or at least questioning, what we are in fact doing there. And I think that the fact that they got Osama bin Laden will add fuel to the fire of these arguments that, our job there is done. Perhaps we should pull back out of Afghanistan, stay off the coast, perhaps using drone strikes, things like that, but not have so many ground forces in country there.
Mr. Winnick, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.